You have reached the Spencerverse, where the worlds are just a little bit weirder than you expect. I'm LJ Spencer, your author and narrator. Let's begin. A thump and a clang echoed down the empty hallway. Dahlia, what was that? Margaret asked, looking up from the electrical panel she was working on. I'm not sure, Margaret, the station's AI responded. There is something attaching to the secondary habitat airlock, but as you know, we no longer have external sensors. Damn it. And the last replacement array just had to die 6 months ago. Margaret sighed. Well, I suppose we should go and greet whoever they are. Hope they're friendly. Even if they're not, there's not much left except food and medical supplies. I hope they're friendly too, Dahlia said. Although we have plenty to offer if they are scavengers. True that. Margaret moved through the sealed ring of the old gas mining station, passing the large floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto the now unusable recreation dome. The grass and trees had long since become desiccated, and the ceiling fabric hung in tatters from the uppermost struts of the dome. It had become a common sight for Margaret. She didn't even look out the windows anymore as she jogged through the habitat sections until she reached the airlock. Dahlia turned on the lights. They flickered for a moment before stabilizing into a dull yellow glow. The door to the section was open, but Margaret waited on the other side of the opening. That way, if the airlock malfunctioned or the people coming aboard were unfriendly, Dahlia could drop the hatch doors. Margaret heard the old familiar clanking of the airlock doors, grinding from disuse. There was a hissing sound, and the airlock opened slowly. Someone's definitely pushing it, Margaret said. I concur, Dahlia replied. The air coming out of it is not toxic to you, however. No pathogens that I can detect. That's a blessing. Wouldn't want to leave you alone because I die of some strange disease. Strange clicking sounds came from the open door, and a long, dark, spindly leg appeared, and another, until a spider-like being stepped into the hall. It had a fabric covering over its midsection that looked like silver canvas with tubing sewn into it, and a strangely shaped helmet attached to accommodate its oblong head and large eyes. It had 6 legs, 4 of which they used to walk on. The upper 2 limbs held a rectangular box with holes on the side that fit the tips of their limbs. One side of the box glowed with what looked like a tablet screen. The box clicked and chittered, which made the creature look up. When they saw Margaret, it clipped the box to the covering, held up its upper limbs, and walked slowly towards the door where Margaret was standing. Margaret? Asked Dahlia. I think it's okay, Dahlia, she replied. I have a feeling they're just curious, or at least trying to signal that they aren't dangerous. I take it you can't decipher the noises from whatever the box is. No, I cannot. It does not conform to any human-known alien life, at least none since the last update. That was nearly 100 years ago, however. Margaret sighed. So many things out of date. She shook her head. Well, hopefully we can get something through to them eventually. Yes, Dahlia agreed. While Margaret was talking, the being had stopped about 3 meters in front of her and pulled off the box, setting it on the floor. It pointed to the box, then its helmet, then at Margaret, and again at the box. Margaret said, Do you want me to talk? Is that a translator? She asked, then also gave the sign for talk with her hands. The alien cocked its head downward, then folded its bottom legs underneath itself. It repeated the gestures again, pushed the box even closer towards Margaret, then waited. I guess that's a yes, she said. What should I talk about? I don't think it matters, Margaret, Dahlia replied. I can play back my recordings for them later if communication is established. Although I would assume that device is probably also recording and will translate for them later. Yeah, that makes sense. Margaret stared at the being for a moment, thinking, then said, I'm surprised that you're here. I've never seen an alien like you before. We've only met a few others. She sighed. Okay, Margaret, old girl, that sounds lame, even to me. Well, I suppose I should be polite and introduce myself. She put a hand on her chest. I'm Margaret Dunn, formerly of the Venus Gas Mining Company. This used to house other humans, but I'm the last one here. There's also Dahlia, the station's AI. Say hello, Dahlia. Hello, Dahlia said. Welcome to my station. The alien didn't move. Margaret went thoughtful again. Well, I suppose I should tell you what happened to the station. It's basically the result of corporate downsizing, really. After it had been operating the first 100 years, Earth became uninhabitable and humans began to move on to greener pastures. At first, the station was supplying the new colonies with gases for ship fuel, construction, and manufacturing, but slowly the demand from Sol system collapsed because there were new and better resources to be found. So, the company announced that they were decommissioning the station and people left. Except for me, of course. She paused to sit down on the deck. I hope you don't mind. I can't stand too long these days. Then again, I'm nearly 300 now, I think. 312, Margaret, Dahlia corrected. Margaret rolled her eyes. Thank you, Dahlia. The woman sighed. That was sarcasm, by the way. I'm not sure if your machine would understand that. The box chirped and clicked for a minute, surprising Margaret. The alien moved its head in a motion that looked like surprise, too. They said something to the box, which chimed, then said, Why? Chirp, click. On station. Chirp, click, click. Old. Why is the station so old? Well, it's over 400 years old. It was, when it was built, the most state of the art mining station humans had produced. There were thousands who lived here miners, engineers, transporters, along with all the other support staff, shop owners, cleaning crews, medical staff, all of it. She folded her legs under her. It was like a big city above Venus, perpetually illuminated by our wondrous star. There were even satellite campuses from several major universities, mostly so they could study more ways to utilize what was being mined, but there was a lot of interesting space science going on, too. Margaret smiled. I worked in the refining suite until I retired. Then I taught at the university for a while and made for a nice retirement project, really. The box chirped and clicked as she talked, apparently translating what she was saying, and continued for about a minute after she stopped talking. The alien sat quiet for a moment, moved its head, and began clicking and chirping again. After about 30 seconds, the box said, But why are you alone here? Margaret stared at the alien, then the box, then back at the alien. That box learns fast. The alien talked again. Yes, the box said. Human language is not that complicated. Margaret scoffed. You should try learning German. What is German? The woman laughed. It's a different human language. Humanity has more than one language. I primarily speak English and sign language, and a smattering of words from a few others. Sign language? They asked. Margaret signed as she spoke. Yes, she said. The gestures I'm doing with my hands now is called sign or sign language. It's used for people who can't hear or can't speak verbally, or both. It's also very useful to know for doing EVAs, especially when the comms in your suit breaks. The alien patted their suit. Understand. We have suit. Chirp, click. Sign 2. You have a sign language too? That's fascinating. Margaret smiled. Seems we have some things in common. But why did you come to my station? The alien perked up and rose slightly, gesturing enthusiastically as they chirped and clicked. The box continued to translate. We are explorers, scientists, learners. We saw your system and decided to investigate. Have studied your star and have small group studying first planet. Now we are here. They paused for a moment. Found station and was curious. Did scans. Saw life form. Was curious. I volunteered. Margaret smiled at the alien's enthusiasm. Well, my curious friend, do you have a name? Name? Yes, like I said, my name is Margaret, and the computer's name is Dahlia. It's how we distinguish individuals. Ah, yes, my name is. The alien let out a long string of chirps and clicks, but the translator couldn't render it into English. Margaret looked thoughtful for a moment. It seems your name can't be translated. If you want, I can give you a name in my language. Maybe more of a use name. What do you do? Do your people as a whole have a name? The alien hung its head. I do not think the people's name will translate. We are the people. I study other sentient beings, how they behave, language, culture, politics. They looked up again. I would accept human style name. Interesting. Do you have a gender? Gender? Shit, how do I explain gender? Margaret muttered. Well, humans primarily have two genders, male and female, but there are also other genders and those with no gender. She shrugged. Human biology is rather complicated, actually. I don't think I'm explaining it right, but I'm mostly a chemist, not a biologist. The alien hissed in a staccato rhythm. I understand. We have 6 primary genders with multiple subgenders. It is also complicated. Was that a laugh? The hissing? Laugh? Humor. Reaction to something funny. The alien hissed again. Humor. Yes. Laugh. Margaret looked up, thinking again. How about I give you a gender neutral name then? I know. How about Reed? What does name mean? Well, your legs are long and thin. They look like a plant we used to call a reed, but it's also a name that's been used for humans for a long time. The alien was silent for a long moment, then said, That is acceptable. Okay, great. Margaret pulled herself up slowly off the floor. Would you like a tour of the station? Well, a tour of what I can, anyway. The recreation area is too damaged to go into now. Reed pushed themselves off the floor in a fluid motion and picked up the translator, attaching it to their suit again. Yes, they said. I would like that. Margaret led the way out of the airlock section into the next where the windows started. Reed stopped, staring at the desiccated trees and dead remnants of grass. They put a limb up to the glass. What happened? Margaret shrugged. Just time, my friend. This station was rated for about 500 years. It was 200 years old when I came to live here. She paused for a moment, looking far away, then continued. It's been another 212 years since then. The last of the residents left when the filters out there died. The evacuation was about, 120 years ago. That is correct, Margaret, said Dahlia. Reed stared out the window for another long moment. Our world is full of flora. We are always sad when we see flora destroyed. Yeah, it's sad for us too, but I've lived in many places that had hardly any plant life at all, including cargo ships. I do miss the flora in the recreation area, but I got used to not having it. There is something similar to it that I'll show you later. Come on, there's plenty more to see, Margaret said, gesturing for Reed to follow. Margaret answered Reed's questions as they traveled the habitat ring. Dahlia filled in the gaps when Margaret's memory failed her. When they reached the hydroponic gardens, Reed chittered excitedly. This is like home, they exclaimed. I am sad I cannot breathe your air, but the humidity feels good on my limbs. Our air on our ships can be very dry. Margaret chuckled. Yeah, human ships are like that too, as you can tell. That's why this is arranged in a garden with areas to sit. A lot of humans like to sit with the plants and enjoy the air too. I know I do from time to time. The alien made a gesture which, when Margaret asked, confirmed was something akin to a nod. Do you miss Earth? Reed asked as they approached the mess hall. Hold that thought, Margaret said. Do you. Oh, wait, I suppose you wouldn't be able to eat our food if you can't breathe our air. Do you mind if I have food? It's been a while since I last ate. Please have sustenance if you require it. It will not offend me. I am curious, Reed said. I am curious was a common refrain during the tour. Margaret smiled. Oh, good. Give me a minute. She went over to the food printers and tapped the screen a few times, moving to a table that had only one chair. She sat down. Reed sat opposite her on the floor. That should be ready in about 5 minutes, but to answer your question, she got that faraway look again. No, I don't miss Earth. Most of it, when I left, was empty because of the pollution. Last I heard, the colony senate had declared it a sanctuary and historical planet and closed it off to visitors. Except for scientists. I don't recommend going. You see, there was a scientist not too long after I left who thought he could clean the atmosphere with a chemical reaction. Unfortunately, that caused the sky to go dark and the air to be barely breathable. They've been trying to fix it ever since, and the last I heard before the network antennas failed was that most of the Earth was covered in ice. I'm guessing it probably still is. That is sad, Reed said. All that flora gone like your dome. Margaret nodded. Yeah, it is. But there are a lot of really beautiful worlds colonized by humans with plenty of flora and fauna. They take much better care of them, too. Became a sacred duty, really, after the devastation of Earth. Reed was quiet for a moment, then said, We will investigate your Earth. We have technologies that may possibly help restore the atmosphere. Margaret smiled. That'd be great. You should get in touch with the colonies, though, and ask permission first. I think there still might even be an active station above Earth. Reed made what Margaret and Dahlia had come to understand was a negating motion and hung their head. This was the only station with power we detected in the system. Oh, Margaret replied as the food printer chimed. She went over, took out the tray with her dinner, and brought it back to the table. Her look was far away again, and Reed just studied her as she sat down and ate. When she finished, she sat back, sipping her drink for a time, then finally said, I think Dahlia will need to give them copies of the most current star charts we have. How far is the closest colony? 4 light years at Alpha Centauri, the AI replied. I will create a data pod for Reed. Thank you, Dahlia, she replied. Reed tilted their head and stared at Margaret for a long time. I thank you for the information, But you did not answer my first question, Margaret. I forgot. What did you ask? Why are you alone here? Margaret put down her drink and stood, moving to the windows to look out over the recreation area. Well, it's been long enough, so I suppose it's okay to tell you. It's a bit personal, but you're the first person I've talked to besides Dahlia since the others left. When I came here, I was alone. My family had all died in some stupid war conflict thing on the new colony they had all moved to. Earth's population was slowly expanding to the colonies, and somehow I ended up completely on my own. I walked into the Venus mining recruiting office and got the job here. I had nothing better to do, really. She shrugged. Then I met Rita. She was beautiful and smart and way out of my league, but I loved her, and by some miracle, she loved me back. She pointed at the recreation dome. We got married 2 years later under one of those trees out there. It was a beautiful cherry tree that dropped little pink flower petals every year. All of our friends came. Rita was so beautiful in that dress. Margaret took a deep breath, pausing for a moment, staring out at the empty dome. My wife was a pilot, one of the best on the station. But 6 months after we got married, she was in a shuttle accident. They told me it was something to do with a faulty engine. She was dragged into and crushed under atmospheric gases and gravity of Venus. But I don't really remember much after they told me that she was dead. Reed chirped and clicked in a sad sounding way. You lost your mate? Yes. I am sorry. I understand. Margaret turned around, anger and other emotions on her face. Do you? Reed hung their head. Received message from Homeworld 10 cycles ago. One of my young and one of my mates. They gestured in the negative. Dead. Accident. Margaret went over to the alien and put a hand on its body above one of the upper limbs. I'm sorry, Reed. We are very similar, you and I. Yeah, she replied with a small laugh. I think you're right. Margaret cleaned up the remnants of her dinner, putting the tray in the recycler, giving Reed a moment. She came back with a coffee and sat down again. They stayed that way, both looking out the windows in companionable silence for a time, until Reed asked, again, Why are you here alone? Margaret took another deep breath. This is my home. It's where I met and loved Rita and where I grieved her. I don't have anyone else, and honestly, I didn't want to leave the planet where I spread her ashes. So, when the last ship left, I hid in a storage room. They left a lot of the supplies here, since the ships had more than enough of their own. I have medical supplies and food for over 3,000 people for 100 years, so I haven't gone without. I've had Dahlia for company, and now I've met you, and soon, well, Reed lifted their head. Soon? Margaret sat up and took a breath. This station has been losing orbit for decades. The engines that kept it stabilized died not too long ago, and eventually the station will hit Venus's atmosphere and be destroyed. You will die. Margaret smiled. I know, but then I'll be with Rita again. I've had a long, full life, Reed. I'm okay with that. But you, alone? Reed's speech seemed distressed. I do have Dahlia. But I haven't seen another being for over 100 years, well, until now. Truly, Reed, I'm okay with dying alone. Reed went quiet again. They pulled another box out of their suit, stuck one of their upper limbs into it, and spoke, faster than they'd been speaking to Margaret. The translator didn't translate what Reed was saying, but then there was a reply from a slightly different voice. Yes, possible. Agree, was all the translator picked up. Is it truly your wish to stay here? Asked Reed, slowing their speech for the translator. We are capable of creating a human habitat on our ship. Margaret smiled, sadly this time. I do truly wish to stay here, Reed. It's kind of you to offer, though. Reed gave the affirmative gesture, hanging their head, then asked, Do you wish to send a message to the other humans? We will bring it to this colony system Dahlia has indicated on the star map. I'd like that, and it would give them an introduction to you, so hopefully they won't be hostile. She grinned. Humans can be unpredictable, don't forget that. We will not forget, Reed said. I will not forget. Dahlia, can you give Reed a copy of your recordings from when they came aboard until now? Yes, Margaret. Compiling. End of recording.